On this Sunday, we have with us Mr. CHANDRA JYOTI. He is a chartered accountant by profession. He has around 15 years of corporate experience and he is expert in field of finance, basically direct and indirect taxation. Also, he has handled international taxation and legal role as well. So he started his career in 2005 in a manufacturing company, Birla Tires, based at Kolkata. He has dealt with service tax matters in the beginning of his career and then moved on to direct taxation, both domestic and international. And he has also handled legal role, which included handling contracts on behalf of the organization and IPR. He has handled taxation part for more than 24 states during his initial career. Later on, he moved on to Kaya Limited in the year 2013, where he handled direct taxation and indirect taxation pan-India level. He has also dealt with VAT matter, service tax matter, and has successfully implemented SAP Masters module for GST pan-India. In 2017, he joined food beverage industry, which is VKL Seasoning, a group company looking, and in VKL Seasoning, he was looking at the direct and indirect taxation for pan-India level. He has implemented SAP and played major role in merger and acquisition activity for Sweden-based company. Thereafter, in 2019, he joined Rentokil, which we are popularly known as PCI. PCI is a global leader in pest control. Currently, he heads direct and indirect function as a general manager for group operations of India. PCI is a UK-based company with having headquarters in London. So, he looks after indirect taxation for more than 25 states and he has successfully implemented E-INVOICing in the month of October. He looks after direct and indirect taxation as well as transfer pricing and the recent newly introduced BEPS, that is base erosion profit sharing concept in India. So with this, I welcome Mr. CHANDRA JYOTI, PANIGRAHI, to share his experience and knowledge with us in this Sunday morning so that we can be enlightened about the most happening GST aspects. Thank you. I now hand over to Mr. Chandra so that he can guide us further. Thank you.
Good morning to all my friends and good morning Santosh ji. Thanks for your introduction. Santosh ji and me were quite vocal that we should do something for this organization in terms of taxation. So it has been our thought process that we do two topics. One is e-invoicing and simultaneously at some point of time, I would take up the faceless assessments. Santosh ji, am I be correct if I say in English or it should be mixture of English and Hindi as well?
As you are comfortable, sir, you can both try both the languages as you are comfortable. Thank you.
Fine. So I would start off in Hindi and sometimes I would also move into Hindi. So what I plan is that I would take you through these sessions. Last 10 minutes I will give you for the question and answers. Okay. And anybody has any doubts regarding my presentation or any conceptual things, किसी को कहाँ पर समझ में नहीं आया, तो they can very well raise the questions and they can also ask me directly. This is not a problem in the last 10 minutes. Now, before I start, there are certain things which I was thinking in the morning that I should be aware, make aware to all of my friends. I believe most of the friends are from the legal fraternity. So India is in a cusp of taxation digitization revolution. That is the word I use. It's phenomenal, and hats off to the central government, the way they're bringing in the policies. The objective is very simple: digitization of data, transparency, less interference with the officers, and obviously the, the fourth chronology is the abolition or the checking of frauds. That's the main part. So my PPT would be focusing on one single aspect of that is e-invoicing in GST. Simultaneously, it's a very well thought out process. In budget 2020, I will present that legal provisions towards the last so that the persons who are hearing me would understand what ramifications it has in terms of income tax and GST. So for the first time in 70 years, I would say, because they have simultaneously amended both the provisions of direct and indirect tax to curb fraud. And how e-invoicing is linked to that provision, I will give you at the end of the slides. So with this, I'm moving to my slides presentation. Now, the first slide I will talk about the e-invoicing brief, what exactly it is and how relevant it is. So I've given the rules for, so two things one must remember: that e-invoicing is not generation of e-invoice from the portal. What simply is it means, the government has an infrastructure. It would give the IRN and the QR code, which will be embedded in the invoice. Now I would come to all those concepts and what exactly an IRN number looks like in my later on. By this, the government is actually taking away your sales. So for example, if I sell to Santoshji, for Santoshji it is a purchase. Both indirectly the government is recording both the transaction and the GST level. Why this is done? So it was believed that, you know, after GST registration, most of them are not filing returns and most of them are engaged in fraud. To curb that, they have introduced this concept. So that is basically what my first slide says. Of course, when I say that, the other concept is the e-invoice would be in a standardized format. Now everybody understands what is a standard. Standard is something which is backed by a legal law. So in the GST Act, they have embedded that how the invoice would look like when it goes to the government portal. So if they've standardized. By this, they are bringing the entire industry into a single common platform regarding standardization. That is the beauty of e-invoicing. And I will also tell you what is the mandatory field which remains to be there in the e-invoicing concept and what is the optional field to there. So with this, I move to my second slide. Now, what was the rationale of bringing e-invoicing? The rationale was, as I told you in the beginning, to check the GST tax evasion or simply the tax evasion. And the other benefit was that real-time invoicing discourages the changes and adjustments what we are doing. I mean, just yesterday, I will give you a very practical example. I was just giving that in. So the government is trying to come up with a amendment in the invoice rules that if you are send something to the government portal, you can adjust or pass the adjustment to be done in the invoice within 1 day. Otherwise, the portal locks it. So everything is now automatic. I mean, gone are the era of paper. And as a professional, from the legal fraternity, from the finance fraternity, it is imperative that one should understand all this digitization of taxation so that they would be able to serve the business better. Unless that happens, we would be leaving behind the revolution which is occurring in the taxation front. And I'm telling you, every day I was in the morning, I was discussing with Santosh ji that if I don't study for next 5 or 10 days, I will be simply outdated. The changes are brutal, I would say, and somebody who understands, somebody who goes through the changes will realize that how fast the government is making changes. And as I was coming to the rationale, then the real-time invoices does the data capturing is done by the government, and the machines can read invoice. So basically, these are the broad outlook and the objective of the rationale of e-invoicing. Unfortunately, since I'm working in one of the global companies, I was fortunate enough to see the systems of South Korean systems, how they are working in e-invoicing. It's absolutely fantastic, and they were the first country to introduce the e-invoicing, and they had that the concepts which I in a meeting with my South Korean counterparts also helped me to implement the e-invoicing in India. I mean, I also thank them for giving insights to the concepts. I move on to the next slide. Now you see the dichotomy and paradoxical situation what we are in. We are a population of 1.3 130 crores. Assuming 40 or 50 crores are below the 21 years age or something like that, because that's the reason, that's what I would so as a thumb rule, I mean, just to give you a ballpark numbers, 50 crores population are there who can file GST or who can be coming in the tax bracket. So out of this, we have only 1.25 crores GST taxpayers in the country. I mean, this is ridiculous. For a population of 130 crores, how much? It is not even, it's barely 1%. You can imagine the evasion that is happening because of this. Because we are used to it. For the last 70 years, it is our fundamental rights to do the corruption. That is what it's changing now. And I'm telling you in later of the slides, the government is 10 times more smarter than what people think. I will prove it out. So with this, e-invoicing has been divided into two categories. One is not applicable and one is applicable. Now you see, come to the applicable category. We have only 27,000 RTP, or RTP means a registered taxpayers. So these are the numbers which I am quoting. I have from the government portal itself. So I believe the government won't fudge the data. I mean, that much, at least that much belief we should have on our present government. And then I bucketed into 500 crores, 100 crores to 500 crores, and less than 5 crores. So I'm coming to each of them. This 500 crores, it came from 1st October 2020. From 100 to 500 crores, it would come by January. Already the legal rules are in place. Everything is done. So it's just a matter of time what it should be. And the aggregate turnover, which is below 5 crores, it should come by, this is what they're thinking. I would say that from 5 to 10 crores that the government will decide. It should come by 1st April 2021. There are a couple of things I would like to tell to my friends over here. First, I will explain you the definition of turnover in my next slide. And I'll tell you the ramifications and the importance of the wiring I call it. This is the digitization of data. So I call it as a wiring of the business links. Today, I had actually, a couple of days back, I had given to my legal group around 10,000 list of taxpayers who have been identified as a fraud from 17 to March 20. I mean, from July 17 to March 20. That list I've already shared in the legal group. And there is already another 1 lakh registration which is liable to be cancelled, which is the pipeline. So the government is doing a fantastic exercise in terms of data mining, artificial intelligence, whatever you can tell. Now you should realize that by this, the government has every data of yours. Don't think that the government is not having data. So it's just is when I will hit you, I will decide the time, place, and the date to hit all the people who are doing corrupt practices. It's very simple. Now with this, I would just like to share my experience on the implementation part. You know, when the GST came, I'll give you an example how we have migrated and how we're migrating to the era of transparency. When GST came, there was a lot of difficulties in implementation. It's hell. I tell you, I believe me, for the first 9 months, it's horrible. But when I implemented e-invoicing, from the day one, the government, it's spot on. You know why? When I was doing the GST, the government didn't have the database. And fortunately or unfortunately, this was admitted by the government officials itself in our open forum meeting, that we don't have the database. You know why? Because we don't want transparency. We don't want digitization. डिजिटाइजेशन होगा ना, ट्रांसपेरेंसी आएगा. करना ही नहीं है. मैं खुद सर्विस टैक्स फाइल किया हूँ पेपर में. 2004 से मैं पेपर फाइल कर रहा था 2009 तक. तो 2009 में इन लोग कुछ वेबसाइट वो वेब पोर्टल लेके आए ऑनलाइन के लिए, उसको आधा चला आधा नहीं चला. इनकम टैक्स टीडीएस को धक्के मार मार के अभी जाके ठीक हुआ है 4-5 साल में. आपको करना ही नहीं है डिजिटाइजेशन. और तो डिजिटाइजेशन करेंगे ना, ट्रांसपेरेंसी आएगा. नहीं करेंगे तो कहां से आएगा? See, imagine in 1997 we were the top software technology company. Why the hell it took us 20 years for the tax digitization? So we are in 2017. I admit that GST was delayed by 2.5 years or say 3-4 years. But 97 से 2013 तक तो हम GST ला सकते थे ना. हमने नहीं लाया. Reason is we don't want transparency. We want the old sickening system of corruption to continue. दिमक की तरह वो सब खा रहे हैं हम लोग को. चल नहीं दो. Because अगर मेरे घर में आके पहले, if in the morning मेरा घर में आके कोई पैसा देके जाता है, तो why the hell I would work 15 hours in a day? That's a very simple psychology. वही जुगाड़ सिस्टम चल रहा था. तो ये सब अब बंद हो रहा है. And to my knowledge, I know my legal friends are more knowledgeable in terms of law. The spread of changes is happening across the law. It is not restricted to tax. That's what I'm largely I would say. So coming on to this topic, तो इन लोग e-invoicing ला दिए. अभी I'm telling you, and it is a very open thing, that there were a lot of industry opposition in not bringing the e-invoicing. Even so much pressure was there. My implementation partner, I don't want to take the name, was saying that no, you don't worry, GST will be postponed. That was his statement on September 29th. The government never budged. That is the conviction and the authority in which the government is moving. Very clear they are. They are very clear in what they are doing. And they are doing step by step in a logical manner. Yes, admittedly, some policies may not be good to the people, some may not like it, because India is a different country with 32 states and 5 union territories. I mean, it's a whole ball game altogether. That's what every state has a different rules, different industry, economic conditions, and everything. So it's something which is tremendous. So that's why I'm coming. So in e-invoicing, because of the data migration, we had a very simple thing. So actually, then I will move to what do you mean by a turnover? That is, the aggregate turnover is the most important thing in the e-invoicing. Now, yes, aggregate turnover means your normal sales. अगर आप normal sale करते हैं, उसको लेके आप चलो. Exempt sales जो zero rated है, कोई चीज exempt sell है, तो उसको exports and stock transfers. So beautiful. Stock transfers are a beautiful concept in GST. Anyway, that was not my topic today, so I would not delve much into those stock transfers. I will stick to what I'm saying. And you see the government, what it has done. On September 30th, they have come up with a notification October 1st is the data for implementation. I'll tell you how the government has caught the industry off guard. And you know, हम लोग का स्मार्टनेस बहुत ज्यादा है ना. हम लोग हर टाइम में जुगाड़ वही है ना, वही जुगाड़ करते हैं. हर चीज में जुगाड़. Every time we have to bend the law. अरे why? When the law is very simple, why don't we follow it? हमको वही है ना. We never come into the realm of transparency. Because हम लोग वही 70 साल से वही कर रहे हैं. ये गवर्नमेंट क्या कर सकता है? So how they have killed you in this notification, I will tell you. What they did, they smartly said, तो बहुत सारे कंपनीज क्या करते हैं in order to avoid the GST turnover, so they started कि नहीं मेरा last year तो see the concept of GST e-invoicing was coming from February 2020. So उन लोग थोड़ा से दूसरा कंपनी बना के वो दूसरा टर्नओवर दिखा दो कैसे करके वो थ्रेशोल्ड टर्नओवर को अपने को जाना है मतलब दैट 500 crores आई हैव टू यू नो डिसमेंटल इट तो मैं 500 crore पे पहुंचूंगा ना तब मेरे को लॉ एप्लीकेबल होगा मैं पहुंचूंगा नहीं इफ इट इज नॉट एप्लीकेबल देन इट वोंट बी एप्लीकेबल टू माय ऑर्गेनाइजेशन so they started doing some other companies you know doing A company B company so that the turnover remains 500 below 500 crores they are out of the threshold. The government, what did they did? Very smartly and very intelligently, just put the time bomb on September 30th. I was a witness to it. So they said that turnover means with respect to everybody was till that time, the law, the turnover was off with respect to the previous year. So suppose if I am in 2021, तो 19-20 का जितना turnover है, तो अगर 500 crore से ऊपर गया, तो मेरे लिए applicable है. इन्होंने क्या किया बोलता नहीं 2017 जुलाई से जो टर्नओवर है इन एनी ऑफ द 3 years इफ यू हैव एक्सीडेड फॉर यू इट इज एप्लीकेबल आपकी सारे प्लानिंग चौपट हो गई डोंट थिंक दैट द गवर्नमेंट इज फूल दे 10 times इंटेलिजेंट व्हाट पीपल आर टेलिंग सो इन दैट वन सिंगल अमेंडमेंट ऑन द September 30th they have killed 3 birds in a single stroke. They're very smart, and that's what I'm telling you. The beauty of database which is doing this trick. So that's what my slide says. That's why there is a question mark that why this turnover definition was changed from 2017 to 18 to 1920. That's the rationale behind it. So I move on to my next slide. So basically, this is the process flow how we are doing an e-invoicing setup. So basically, suppose my example from my company, the moves to an IRP which is being nominated. IRP means something a mid party which will do the data flow from my organization to that IRP, and then IRP would send it to the government, and then government would send it back. So it's a beautiful digitization of data. The reasons why IRP was involved because obviously because of the bandwidth, because इनके पास data infrastructure है, network infrastructure, which normally a small corporate people will not be having it. So that's the reason why this government has moved. So that is what it depicts the entire flow of IRP. So I again move on to the next slide. So either that I have slowly touched into the law aspect of it, which I believe it is very important for the listeners to understand that there is also a law behind it. So there are 3 terms which is very, very important. One is that invoice, tax invoice, and then the rules, the supplier, and the meaning. So basically these are the 3 broad terms in invoice in GST. And fundamentally, tax invoice is the most critical element in GST credit transfer. Basically, across the value chain, there is a credit transfer. So tax invoice plays the fundamental role. So therefore, they have amended this rules regarding the tax invoice. So they define what is a tax invoice and the manner. See, that's what I was telling you, that they have amended the supplier tax invoice into and the rules. What should contain in the rules? So they have defined. That's the law behind it. And then again move on to the next slide. Now you see the beauty of it. There are 2 things I have underlined. One is that IRN. I will come to IRN number. This is the invoice terminology, and it should be from the electronic manner in such manner as prescribed. So this was notification 72. Now here is the catch. अगर मेरा ई इनवॉइस IRN और QR कोड नहीं होता तो वो इनवॉइस ही ट्रीट किया नहीं जाएगा. If it is not treated as an invoice, the credit will not be available. For example, I am doing a business with Santosh. If I am not issuing an e-invoicing to Santosh ji, assuming that I have above 500 crores threshold limit, Santosh ji will not be able to take the credit. Do you think that Santosh ji will do a business with me? That is what the government is moving. जहां आपकी लेंस है वहां कट कर दो. So that's the point where it cuts the corruption. So therefore, this is what it is coming into. That's the manner in which. Then I have again the amendments in notification 72, which they have issued in 39/2020, and they told what is a quick response code and what is an IRN count. So this is something which I call the standardization of law. And once the standardization happens through the law, then everything falls into place. So this becomes a standard. So this is in the beginning of my speech, I was referring to standardization. So this is the standardization. So by rules, they have described that what is a QR code and what it should be there. And very recently ई-वे बिल को लिंक कर दिया है, तो वो प्रोजेक्ट में मैं काम कर रहा हूँ. कल मैं काम किया था उसमें. So that's again a separate chapter. I will take some point of time when time permits. Now this is what is e-invoicing is. That's the beauty of this government. Standardization. All industry, be it pharma, be it XYZ, there are exceptions to it, of course, because of the banking, insurance. It's not because of the volume. They have not come into it, so they will later on. This is the IRN code. This is a government generated, and the QR code. This is again government. So every invoice is going to have this. Currently, it is not applicable to B2C. So I'll come to what is applicable to it currently and not. And if you are not having this IRN and the QR code, then your invoice is invalid and you are not eligible for credit. So basically, then I will tell what is an IRN code. So it is a 64-digit hash number, and QR code, what it contains, I will give in the next one. So these are the particulars of the QR code. So when you scan the QR code, everything detail is available. In smartphones or everything, the QR code details is available. So like GST number of the supplier, recipients, invoice, date of generation, HS input, everything is applicable. Now, किन डॉक्यूमेंट में ये इनवॉइसिंग एप्लीकेबल होगा वो जानना भी बहुत जरूरी है. Up till now, yes, no में मैं किया हूँ. Like invoices, debit notes, credit notes, all will be in e-invoicing. Bill of supply exempt sale है तो 0% टैक्स है, तो उसमें कोई टैक्स का क्रेडिट नहीं बनता है, इसलिए kept out of the net. Then delivery challan and job work challans, no GST, no monetary transaction is involved in there, so therefore they are kept out of the documents from the GST portal. Then it was told what is to be done for the contents. So then the schema, which I told you, the schema means what the invoice field should contain. So they have standardized it. So it's again all backed by law. There are mandatory fields and there are optional fields. Mandatory fields में if invoicing with specified particular नहीं रहता है तो ये invoice, it will not be said an invoice. और optional fields में रहता है, you can give or you cannot give. तो mandatory fields में क्या क्या रहना चाहिए? Name of supplier, GSTN, address, name of buyer, GSTN, total tax amount, quantity. और optional में क्या क्या रहना चाहिए? Vendor PO reference, origin, expiry, warranty date. So all these are all optional fields. Now here is the thing. This one I had done कि what it's the type of transaction. So अभी तक तो B2B में है. So B2B means when both buyer and seller are having the GST number and the buyer takes the input tax credit. That's how we define a B2B transaction. B2G means a government transaction. B2C में अभी तक किए नहीं है. The law was amended on December 1st by notification number 89/2020 saying that B2C invoicing will be applicable from 1st April 2021. So from 1st April we can expect that B2C is transactions is applicable. So my friends and my colleagues, you can imagine the way the government is driving the digitization force. सब कुछ नेट में आ रहा है and all transactions are there in the government database. I am not touching upon how they have interlinked GST with income tax. So that is a separate topic by itself. Okay. So but whatever I can only share that a lot of things are happening in the income tax as well to correlate with GST. So therefore our objective, one nation, one tax, one database. Again I repeat, one nation, one tax, one database. There is a unification of data. The data are pooled together. ये नहीं कि वो इनकम टैक्स दूसरा डेटा मेंटेन करे, जीएसटी दूसरा डेटा मेंटेन करे, कोई लीगल डिपार्टमेंट दूसरा डेटा मेंटेन करे. सब कुछ डेटा का सिंक्रोनाइजेशन हो रहा है and therefore things are becoming very, very tightening pocket. All my friends, you would have listened in the everyday आपका न्यूज़पेपर में आता है 3rd या 4th पेज में जीएसटी फ्रॉड 100 करोड़ 200 300 करोड़ पकड़ा जाता है मुंबई में. ये तो स्टैंडर्ड न्यूज हो गया. एवरीडे 3-4 आदमी पकड़ा जाता है, 2-3 आदमी. बॉम्बे में 2-3 तो पक्का ही है, बाकी पैन इंडिया लेवल में आपका इट इज 10 तो एवरेज में लेके चलता हूँ. हर दिन 10 आदमी पकड़ा जाता है. द रीजन इज दिस. हाउ आर दे कैचिंग फ्रॉड? Now you just imagine for a moment, think what is the level of fraud which was happening before July 2017. Before I would say before our after independence in 1949, you see how much fraud we have done. As the business was growing, we are growing very beautifully in from 1997 onwards in terms of software industries, in terms of other, we are doing well actually. But वही है ना कि वो कभी नीचे ही नहीं आता है. सब चीज में जुगाड़. सर ये जुगाड़ 100 रुपया लीजिए, 200 रुपया लीजिए, कर दीजिए. वो जुगाड़ का जमाना चला गया. That concept has to be bored of our mind. I move to the next slides. So what are the types of domestic supply and exports? They have covered it. Imports by default they have covered from the customs. So bill of entry mein everything is there. So they didn't have to capture the imports because ice gates everything is there. So वहाँ पे उन लोग capture कर रहे हैं. Now the two most important things which I was explaining to Santosh ji, these are the two crux of the things which all my legal friends and all friends who have joined need to understand. What they have done in the income tax budget 2020. And first I'll present you in income tax budget 20 and then I will move to GST. Now you see what they have done. The assessing officer, this is the provision I have. So I'll just highlight what is important. So false entry क्या है और books of account में क्या है? So they have defined for the first time in history, I would say in 70 years of income tax, they have defined what is a false entry. Now what is this saying? The assessing officer may direct such person shall pay by way of penalty a sum equal to the aggregate amount of such false or omitted entry. Suppose A does this amount, so 100 रुपया penalty किया तो सीधा 100% penalty 100 रुपया. Now come to the second clause. Without prejudice to the provisions of subsection 1, which means that this is not restricted to this. It is beyond it. Now see what it happens. The assessing officer may direct any other person who causes the person referred to in subsection 1 in any manner. साइड में दलाल भी फंस गया, सिंपल हिंदी में बोलूं तो साइड में दलाल भी फंस गया. A false entry or omits or causes to omit any entry referred to in that subsection shall pay by way of penalty a sum equal to the aggregate amount of such false or omitted entry. तो अगर बी किया, बी को तो पेनल्टी है ही है, और ए जो फैसिलिटेट किया था उसको भी पेनल्टी है. जो बीच में दलाल कॉन्सेप्ट्स होते हैं ना, उसको भी इन्हें लपेट में ले लिया. And these are legal provisions, mind you. These are there in the income tax budget 2020. I will come to the GST. First, let me complete to the income tax. Now, they have defined what is a false entry. False, forged, or falsified documents such as false invoice. Again, the reason why I have used this is from e-invoicing, they have to track how much you are generating the false invoice or how much you are generating the rectified invoice. Now you can understand the link of e-invoicing with the budget. And the government is, I'm telling you, the government is doing in a very logical manner. First, they amend the law, so they bring it within the dragnet, what is a false invoice. Then they amend the operational rules. आ गया आप लपेट में सब आ गया. In general, and a false piece of documentary evidence. Now come to the second clause. Invoice in which respect of supply or receipt of goods or services or both issued by the person or any other person without actual receipt. Circular trading. Simple method में A sells to B, B sells to C, C sells to A. That is how the circular trading happens. वो भी लपेटे में आ गया. Invoice in respect of supply or receipts of goods or services or both or from a person who does not exist. नाम में खाली ये है, एग्जिस्ट ही नहीं किया है, उसको भी पकड़ लिया. बचा क्या? Nothing is left. So please take it seriously. To all my friends, whoever is doing, this is a very, because people are not realizing the importance. The government backend and government is doing silently. No trumpets, nothing. Backend में law change करो, आगे बढ़ो. आपको करना है तो करो. My thinking is very correct. I am not going to budge from any pressure. The message is very clear to the Indo-American US fraternity. They were the ones who were trying to scuttle. That's a perfect word I use for e-invoicing to another 6 months. They are putting pressure. The government never listened. That is the aura of this government. Anything which is good for the country, it has to be done, means it will be done. Come whatsoever may be. And let me tell you, the schema notification came in July. I was only having 2 months time. How have I spent from July to September? I only know that. And I believe the same is for every industry. For all the professionals, the government is keeping on tender hooks. You have to change or we will overrun you. You will be decimated. Simply, you will be, that's the word I'm using it. You will be decimated if you are not following the changes. It's just a matter of time. आज पकड़ेगा गवर्नमेंट या आपको 6 महीने या 1 साल में बट पकड़ेगा. And I will tell you in some other session when I will take, when Santosh ji permits, फेसलेस असेसमेंट्स, तब मैं आपको बताऊंगा कि गवर्नमेंट क्या कर रहा है इन इनकम टैक्स में. Now with this everything is combined. Now coming to the GST amendments, गवर्नमेंट तो उधर इनकम टैक्स में कर दिया, अभी जीएसटी में देखिए आप. मैं सिंपली इफेक्ट ऑफ द अमेंडमेंट पढ़ रहा हूं बिकॉज this slides will be, I will be giving it to Santosh. He will share it to them. In case of fake invoicing, आदमी भी नहीं है लेकिन सप्लाई कर दिया, invoice without supply, supply without invoice, everything covered, taking into ITC without actual receipts of supply, the beneficiary of the transaction, चाहे वो A हो या B हो, is usually found to be different to the directors, promoters, partners, etc. of the entity involved in such activity. It may happen that the name of the actual beneficiary does not appear anywhere in the fraud chain. However, the government has been given power to penalize the beneficiary if established. Obviously, there is a process of establishment in such fraudulent transactions to the extent of tax evaded or the input tax credit. Now, here, my friends, suppose I am selling, A sells 100 rupees worth of goods having GST of 20 rupees. Just an example. To B. B takes, assuming that A is not non-existent, जो हमारा चलता है जुगाड़ वाला सर्कुलर ट्रेडिंग सब बड़ा चीज है, B ने क्रेडिट ले लिया, B का डायरेक्टर भी फंसा, प्रोमोटर भी फंसा टू द एक्सटेंट ऑफ 20 रुपीज. अभी A और B के बीच में C दलाल बैठा हुआ है. I will, by this example, I am trying to give out the ramifications of income tax and GST in this transaction. So B तो मरा 20 रुपीज के लिए, उसका डायरेक्टर भी लपेटे में आ गया, ऑल द डायरेक्टर्स वुड बी. सो जो सी था, जो दलाल जुगाड़ वो भी गया 100 रुपीज में, बिकॉज ही हैज टू द एक्सटेंट ऑफ 100 रुपीज, और ए ही तो मरा. सो with the amendment of, what am I trying to tell you, with the amendment of income tax and GST, everything is in the dragnet. Okay, everything is in the dragnet. Everything is in the dragnet. So तीनों को पूरा आप अंदर चले गए. And these are non-billable. Any input tax credit above a threshold limit, I think the limit is around 5 crores if I have to remember. सीधा अंदर, बाद में आपके सुनवाई होगी. So I've given the affected provisions. Only I read the major important. Now you see, avails the input tax credit using the invoice or the bill referred to in clause B, fraudulently avails the input tax credit without any invoice or bill. आप समझ गए, ये इनवॉइसिंग अगर वैलिड नहीं है तो you will be called as a fraudulent transaction if you are taking the credit, because e-invoicing rules में है कि अगर IRN और QR कोड नहीं होगा वो invalid invoice होगा. If it is an invalid invoice, if you are taking the credit, then you are in fraud. You understand the correlation? That is how the government is moving. Now, what is this effect? As I was saying, sorry, bill cognizable and non-billable. Sorry, I mean that. That's so. I apologize for that. Non-cognizable, but it's cognizable and non-billable. Everything is very clear. With this, I end my slide presentation. I ask if any questions are there from my participants. They can easily ask me. Santosh ji, you can.
Thank you, Chandra ji, for this excellent presentation, giving us insights about GST, e-invoicing, and its impact on the society, on business community, and how it will make our transaction transparent. Okay, there is also a legal mechanism which you informed us. Okay, and the consequences of non-compliance as well. Now I request all participating members to raise, if you have any doubts about in your mind about this process or procedure that is being followed in e-invoicing, you can raise your queries. Please, thank you. Any queries from the listeners?
Any questions can be anything. ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं है. आप कुछ भी चाहो पूछ सकते हो ये इनवॉइसिंग के बारे में. बेसिक अंडरस्टैंडिंग में ऐसा नहीं है कि.
Or relating to GST, right, sir?
Yeah. Anything. You can ask me because I consider to be पार्टिसिपेटिंग होगा तो अच्छा ही होगा.
Chandra ji, there is one query from one of the members on WhatsApp. Okay.
हाँ हाँ हाँ
So, what is the time frame given by government in implementing EGST? Okay. And are there any kind of a training modules or programs rolled out by government to train laypersons if they are not fully conversant with e-taxing, and if they need to seek some kind of a guidance, whom they should approach to?
There are a lot of FAQs available in the government website. That is the government website. Santoshi, I will give you the numbers and the website address. और अगर किसी को कंसल्टेशन चाहिए, कुछ भी चाहिए, तो you can help out. That's not a problem because as a part of this organization, I also believe that if I spread goodwill, good things, then it will be better. And FAQs are there. There are implementation partners. There are a lot of things out there. So government has done a really, and there are video lectures also how to implement. So basically, जिसको पूरा फाइनेंस का आइडिया है, उसका अकाउंटिंग सिस्टम कैसे चल रहा है, जीएसटी लॉ के बारे में है, and the technology side. See, to all of my friends, what I have presented is the 60% of e-invoicing. The other 40% is the technological side. So there is a configuration because जब भी data जाता है from your network to another network, there is an interface. The interface is called the APIs. So these APIs convert the data from your invoice systems to the machine readable form of the government, so that the government database can read those documents and then supply you back. So that is also a technology marvel which is there. So that also can be done by the implementation partner. There are implementation partners. Good. So it's basically a combination of GST law, accounting records, and the information technology. The government, there are partners, there are video lectures and everything. Okay. Any other questions, Santosh?
See, please, since you have already implemented this GST e-invoicing module with one of your organization, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
please share us some insights about what are the challenges those you would have faced.
Oh, yes. A very good question, Santosh. Actually,
Do that. Most of the listeners, if they are trying to implement, at least they will be aware of what are the challenges that they would encounter. Thank you.
Yeah. First of all, you need to simplify things when you are communicating to people, because I am operating in an organization which is having 5,000 employees, okay, 25 states. I don't remember how many vendors are there. I think 3,000. That's the list I was told few days. The training forms the key. The training of law, the training of implementation forms the key. That would very important aspects. I would say. Challenges. Yes, some people were having rigidity in not understanding the e-invoicing. Like say, हमको क्यों जरूरत है? What is the benefit I will give? So even I had interactions with a lot of customers of my company at a big level, making them understand, and to the medium level always, because for this is a massive change. By IRN and QR code, the government is actually capturing your data. Simple, if you put it indirectly. If you are transparent, there is not a problem. There will be no problem. But if you are not, somewhere down the value chain, you will be getting caught. सो ये जो एक्सेप्टेंस था कि मेरा डेटा गवर्नमेंट पोर्टल में क्यों जाएगा, वो सबसे बड़ा चैलेंज है इनको समझाने के लिए कि things are moving in a different direction. It's not the way what we used to do. That's what I call 70 years ka jugaad system. Because I've seen taxation from 2005. So I know how it operates. I will not claim to know everything. At least something I know कि इन लोगों का कैसे चलता था और अभी कैसे चल रहा है। और तीसरा सबसे बड़ा चीज, the biggest beautiful thing of this e-invoicing is that any query, anything, it can be solved online. You don't have to visit any offices. And the fourth important thing, GST, I have sitting in here in Mumbai, I have not visited my offices for the last 2.5 years. In 2 organizations in which I have worked, everything online, every system online. So what does it mean actually? To me, it means 2 things. One is transparency. If I am correct, there will be no problem. Second is there is no corruption. ऑफिसर आपसे मिलेगा तभी ना करप्शन होगा, आप उनसे मिलेगा नहीं तो कहां से करप्शन होगा? सब कुछ तो ऑनलाइन हो रहा है। हर रजिस्ट्रेशन, हर क्वेरी, everything. Of course, there are a couple of things which they have cracked down on the registration part. 5 days ago, they have issued one circular, which the problem with India is that they take advantage of the system, but then the government knows how to screw it also. Beautifully, they have screwed it actually. But by and large, we are moving in a transparency. By and large, we don't have to visit the offices. And by and large, all the tax policies are SSC friendly or taxpayer friendly. It is an empowerment to the taxpayers. They can sit at everything and do it online. Come to the 2004 era. For a service tax registration, I have gone making a serpentine queue in front of the department for the registration. And that वो department guy हमको बोलेगा, of course I don't want to take anything in, ये डॉक्यूमेंट नहीं है, वो डॉक्यूमेंट नहीं है, फिर मैं वापस ऑफिस जाऊंगा, वो डॉक्यूमेंट जाएगा। तो रजिस्ट्रेशन लेने के लिए मेरे को 1 महीना लगता था। अभी तो मैं जीएसटी बैठा किसी प्लेस ऑफ चीज को ऐड करता हूँ, 2 सेकंड में काम हो जाता है। बोलिए कितना मेरा सुबह मैंने दिया, they have embedded in the law that if by 7 days they are not replying it is a deemed registration. Plain simple, ये डॉक्यूमेंट हो आपका, रेंट एग्रीमेंट हो आपका, टेलीफोन, इलेक्ट्रिसिटी बिल, whatever the few documents has been prescribed, everything I upload online. I don't go to any office I am not going. What am I trying to tell all my friends is that there is all the policies are moving towards empowerment towards the citizens. That is the fundamental shift in which the government is bringing the policy. Rather than the jugaad system or the commission system, everywhere we will find a commission. See, any of the laws you take up, commissioning agent, all these things are moving away. I think these are the few benefits I would say, and the challenges which I faced in the university.
Sir, what is the timeline for implementation? Is there any deadline given by government? And what will be the cost impact for each? Like if you have to consider,
see, all of
retailer.
You see, that is why I had given these slides. That's the reason why. So, abhi tak to they have reached over here. So, 100 crores to 500 crores from 1st April 2021. So, ये mandatory हो रहा है. And the maximum fraud happens in this category and the below. क्योंकि जो 500 crores से ऊपर है, generally transparent रहते हैं. Generally, they are transparent. So the government realizes that there are dummy shells, dummy companies, so there are fraud happens. So ये timelines है. और इसको इम्प्लीमेंट करने में, ई-इनवॉइसिंग को इम्प्लीमेंट करने में मैक्सिमम 15 दिन जाता है, 15 से 20 दिन जाता है। आपका अगर सॉफ्टवेयर ठीक है और अकाउंटिंग सिस्टम्स ठीक है, वो तो फिर एक्चुअली आपको करना क्या है, आपको ये करना है, ये स्लाइड में लिखा होता है, ये दो फील्ड जो देख रहे हैं ना आप, IRN एंड QR कोड, इसको रिकॉर्ड करना है आपका डेटाबेस में। बाकी तो इतना सारा फील्ड्स ऑलरेडी आपके इनवॉइस में प्रेजेंट है, एंड द इंटीग्रेशन ऑफ द सॉफ्टवेयर, यही चीज है।
Okay. Sir, my next question would be like one of my fellows asked me on WhatsApp. Okay. The next question would be, most of the listeners on this forum are practicing professionals. Okay. How would it be impacting lawyers' profession?
No, lawyers are kept out of the. It's a very good question.
Right.
When I was presenting the slides, so lawyer के cases में क्या होता है ना, दो चीज होता है. There is a forward charge, there is a reverse charge. So forward charge means अगर मैं संतोष जी को पूछ, संतोष जी डोंट माइंड, आई एम टेकिंग योर नेम फ्रीक्वेंटली, ऐसा कुछ नहीं है। तो मैंने संतोष जी को बेचा अगर गुड्स, सो आई एम ए नॉर्मल बिजनेसमैन, सो आई चार्ज द टैक्स ऑन इट एंड संतोष जी टेक्स इट, सो दैट इज व्हाई इट इज कॉल्ड द फॉरवर्ड चार्ज। रिवर्स चार्ज में संतोष जी जिसने किसी को सर्विस दिया, तो द अदर गाय वुड पे द टैक्स। जनरली लॉयर्स हैव बीन केप्ट आउट ऑफ द लिस्ट, बिकॉज रिवर्स चार्ज में जो फॉलो कर रहा है उसी को ही देना है। एंड रिवर्स चार्ज में संतोष जी इज नॉट इशूइंग अ टैक्स इनवॉइस विद द GST, understand? So a complete tax invoice means a tax invoice with GST. Santosh ji would only give a invoice saying that XYZ services done, so much is the amount, but he will not never mention GST because he is in reverse charge. So reverse charge do not follow the e-invoicing. It's the forward charge which follows the e-invoicing, and that is the reason why imports have been kept out. Because import जो करता है, जो आदमी import करता है वही टैक्स देता है ना, जो importer है वो टैक्स नहीं देता। Okay? Any other questions?
Any other questions, member? Chandra ji, one question is, see, what is the logic behind government keeping certain professions out of this taxation bracket? Because why only lawyers' professions are kept outside this bracket by way of a reverse charge mechanism?
It requires a constitutional answer to this.
Okay.
Okay. That's the reason why I would put it. Generally, they are kept out because they don't want to keep the lawyers in the net. That is what the government is feeling. But Santosh ji, I must admit and I must tell to all of my friends, it may not be that delay in which they will bring the lawyers in the tax net.
Yes.
Because if I were to study their mindset of the current government, they are asking every question which is an established norm for the last 70 years. So they might go outside the norms and to bring the lawyers in the tax. That is my feeling, but it will take time.
See, which other professions apart from law or a law firm are coming under reverse charge mechanism?
You have transporters, goods transporters, जो आपकी गाड़ी वाड़ी लेते हैं ना, सामान लेते हैं, वो है। फॉरेन से कभी भी कोई अपने सर्विस रिसीव किया, सपोज फॉरेन से कोई इंजीनियरिंग आया, इंजीनियर जाके हमें सर्विस दिया, तो वो भी रिवर्स चार्ज में है क्योंकि उसका रेसिपिएंट ऑफ द पर्सन pays the tax. See, Santosh ji, ऐसा है ना कि if you go to the GST law, e-invoicing is applicable to the person who is issuing a tax invoice. In case of reverse charge, it is the recipient of the services which will issue a self-invoice. Therefore, he has to comply, not the guy who is giving you the service, the lawyer. That is the logic. अगर टैक्स इनवॉइस नहीं तो ई इनवॉइसिंग नहीं, और टैक्स इनवॉइस बोले तो विद जीएसटी, ये नहीं कि खाली आपने सर्विस दे दिया और उसको लिख दिया. दैट इज नॉट अ टैक्स इनवॉइस. टैक्स इनवॉइस इज कंप्लीट when you have a GST. Obviously I am referring with GST from the GST perspective, and it will have the invoicing number and those mandatory parameters. रिवर्स चार्ज में कहाँ लॉयर्स देते हैं विद GST? जो देते हैं they have to comply if they are within the threshold limit.
Okay. So is this e-invoicing applicable to lawyers as well?
If they charge GST, yes.
Then, okay.
That is the difference. If they charge, because 90%, 95% they don't charge GST.
Okay. Do we have any other questions from the forum members? If there are no questions, then we end this session. Okay.
Yeah.
I thank you on behalf of Samruddha Bharat Sangh and the present members who are attending this session. I thank you, Chandra ji, for this excellent knowledge, enlightenment about the GST and the next process which is going to come forward. Okay, the consequences of it. Thank you very much to you. Thank you for sharing your valuable insight this Sunday. And we also request you to please join this forum on a continuous basis. Whatever knowledge that you have on which can be helpful to the members can be shared on this platform. Thank you.
Thank you, Santosh ji. Thank you all the members for patient hearing. Thank you, everyone.